Honourable members, Mr. Speaker.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in infinite prudential goodness have appointed us leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the government community, we beseech you to look upon with abundant favor these your servants, whom have been pleased call the people of such important trust in this land. Let your blessings send upon here assembled, and grant and may as your presence treat and consider all matter that should come under their deliberation in so just and full manner to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those interests you have committed to your church.
Item 2 on the order paper, communication from the chair.
Thank you. Colleagues, I welcome you to today's sitting, whereby we are going to be receiving the tax and revenue bills and the draft budget estimates for the financial year 2025-2026. The parliamentary power of the past implies that the legislature is duty-bound to match planned government expenditure with appropriate revenue generation strategies. Hence, the tax and revenue bills as prescribed in Article 152 of the Constitution and Section 8 of the PFMA 2015, plus Rule 150 of our Rules of Procedure. So we are trying to ensure that indeed we work within the given deadlines. So far, so good. I know very many committees, and I think all committees had already started processing municipal policy statements. But now with the receiving of the final budget estimates, it will be much easier. It helps you to do a much richer report and makes the work of the budget committee even much easier. So I hope we can exhaustively interrogate these documents so that indeed we come up with the final budget estimates that we all appreciate. We want to give you enough time to look through these documents. We don't want your complaints of saying you didn't give us enough time, we were rushed. No, we want you to have enough time to scrutinize them. And therefore, after this session, today's session, we shall be adjourning to give committees time so that we don't be running plenary alongside our committee works. We want maximum concentration for members of the committees. It won't be a recess. It would be a plenary recess so that committees can continue fully working, and would urge only sectoral committees, apart from committees which would be having like special assignments, but we want sectoral committees because each member at least is a member of a sectoral committee. We want all of us to participate in the budgeting process. Honorable colleagues, yesterday morning, various parts of the Lake Victoria Basin received heavy rains, which caused flooding in some places and subsequently impeded mobility, and this, we even lost livelihoods. I was checking in the media that we lost around 5 and 7, and more people are injured. It was very, very unfortunate what happened yesterday. Such a climate-induced occurrences are a reminder about the need for responsible and sustainable environment and natural source use by each and every one of us. At the end of the day, natural disasters do not discriminate. Whether you're looking after nature or not, they come for you. So let us be crusaders of environmental conservation and sustainable natural resource use. But also the Committee on Physical Infrastructure, you have some work you've been working on unplanned poor planning and I would say people have built in road reserves, okay, and all that. You've been doing some work. I don't know where you've reached. I hope you can interrogate this further when you're processing the ministerial policy statement. But Honorable Chair, once you're ready, please, we'll be ready to give you space to handle this issue. Honorable members, I will evoke Rule 25.1 of the Rules of Procedure and vary the order paper to accommodate the tabling of a special audit report for the end of lease and assignment agreement between Umeme Limited and the Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited. I'll give details much more why I've done that when we come to that item. Now, colleagues, today I'm not taking matters of national importance. I want to remain focused directly on the issues on the budget paper. So I will allow only leader of opposition and maybe chair physical infrastructure. I don't want to prolong this session.
Honourable Speaker, I want to join you in condoling with the bereaved families. As of close of yesterday, 7 people had passed on due to the flooding that happened in various parts of Kampala and beyond. With your permission, sir, hopefully at some point we can observe a moment of silence for
in fact, I
these
wanted
Ugandans.
to say that we can do it now. Okay? If we could do it now, we observe a minute of silence and then Rob can continue.
May the souls of the departed rest in eternal peace.
Thank you, Right Honourable. A couple of days back, we were here and we were discussing the heat wave, which had become very problematic. Some colleagues here reported of deaths in their constituencies. People were collapsing and dying because of the extreme heat. And we're tasking government to deal with that situation, update the country on what ought to happen and so on. Now we are on the opposite side of the lane with very heavy rains that are causing flooding. As we have mentioned, 7 people died as of yesterday. Myself, in my constituency, I lost 3 people. 2 people in Mulimira zone, that's Bukoto, a 3-year-old child and an 11-month-old baby, another in Banda, and of course different parts of Kampala. I want to implore government, to reach out to the affected families, the bereaved families. There are several that are now displaced. We are trying to find shelter for them in churches, in mosques, and so on, and take care of them from there. We are hoping that government comes in because many are not able to stay in their homes currently. They are still flooded. Others, were affected heavily. I hope that the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, in conjunction with the Ministry of Kampala, Capital City Authority, will come in to intervene as quickly as they possibly can. But away from that immediate intervention, and I hope it will be immediate, Right Honourable Speaker, I think that government needs to update this House on what's happening to avert these happenings, because the causes are known. Poor drainage. We see buildings coming up in Kampala, every corner. There's different structures coming up. We don't know who approves them. Many of them have not planned for drainage. We see, Right Honourable Speaker, we have seen KCCA and government go after some poor people in areas like Lubiji and so on. But then there are powerful people that are not touched in the likes of Namamve, which used to be a water catchment area. But it is entirely gone. We are seeing factories, hotels, and so on, approved by government. So we don't know whether it is encroachment on the environment and on wetlands when you are poor, but when you're rich and powerful, it is okay. Because all of that is the effects that we are facing today. Our hope is that government can address these matters, because it cannot be okay for some and not okay for all the others. And then this poor planning that is all over the place. Kampala is already too congested, so we keep adding many little things here and there. Drainage is not taken care of. We need to address these matters. Otherwise, we shall be here crying again and again, mourning, to no avail. Finally, Right Honourable Speaker, do allow me to request for response from government on a matter that is not related. Honourable Speaker, on the 31st of January this year, the Supreme Court issued a ruling that civilians have got no place under our military courts, the country's military courts. we pushed to see that, as had been directed, those files get to be transferred from the General Court Martial to the civilian courts. As we speak today, it has happened for some, Dr. Kiza Besigye, Hajo Bed Lutale, and we're now pursuing to see that they get bail because they deserve their freedom. But, Right Honourable Speaker, there is several other people for whom files have not been transferred. The likes of Yasin Machete, Sheriff Kalanzi, Agaba Anthony, also known as Bobby Young, and a plethora of others. Their files have not been transferred, and we don't know why. We thought that government was going to move quickly to adhere to the Supreme Court ruling. Can we get an update? Because these people keep asking us, their families keep asking us, is government not interested in respecting the order of the Supreme Court? Are they not planning to? What exactly is happening around that matter? It's important that this matter is responded to, Right Honourable Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you. Let me first speak, Honourable Chimosho. Then I conclude with the government.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I want to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank you for raising the concerns on the overflooding in Kampala. And regarding the issue that you raised on the work that we've been handling, we were majorly handling the Lugogo flooding, and the report is ready. So when you avail us time, we shall table the report. But, Right Honourable Speaker and honourable colleagues, this is the first rain we received, or second, yesterday's rain. And we can see the extent of the damage. And Right Honourable Speaker and honourable colleagues, I want to assure you, the little time I've been in that committee, almost 60% of the work you see going around in Kampala has no approved plans. That has no approved plans. That one, whoever has interested themselves, they know. Two, it is not even supervised by competent engineers. Because the ones we have attempted to look at, we found those challenges. It's now very important, I think, Right Honourable Speaker, that the Minister of Disaster, because now it's Kampala, there is Kasese coming, there is Bududa coming, and many other areas. So, Right Honourable Speaker and honourable colleagues, you can be sure that in this season, we shall be discussing disaster on a daily basis. I think it's very important, Right Honourable Speaker, that the Minister of Disaster Preparedness comes to this House with a plan, the plan on how prepared we are for these disasters. Because yesterday was just, it was a sample. We are headed for more trouble. So I think through you, Right Honourable Speaker, it is very important that you give timelines to the Ministry of Disaster, or for that matter, the Prime Minister's office, to come to this House and prepare the country on what they project, on what they are prepared to do, so that we are not caught unawares. Yet, actually, we are aware. We are not caught irresponsible, because we are aware of what is likely to happen. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you. No, there is no one on the floor, Honourable Chibadia. Yes. Yes. Honourable Chimosho, on the issue you've raised, I think it will be very important now for the sector committee to interrogate it further, because these are issues to do with funding sometimes and all that. So the Committee on Presidential Affairs should interrogate that deeply when they're engaging with the Office of the Prime Minister. And then on the issue of the report, I'm going to cross-check with the clerk. We see when we could get for you space on the order paper, if you have submitted it already. Let me first get a response from government to issues raised.
Right Honourable Speaker and Honourable colleagues, subject to your further guidance on the subject matter of what we are experiencing at the moment, I wish to put the following facts to the House. First and foremost, to condole with the families that lost their dear ones in yesterday's floods occasioned by heavy rains. Right Honourable Speaker, the Ministry of Water and Environment recently briefed the country comprehensively in two fronts. One, they explained why the 3 months of December 2024, January 2025, and February 2025, the country experienced dry conditions and high temperatures. They even went ahead to explain or project how the 3 months of March, April, and May would look like. I want to start with the past and come to the present. On the question of the dry conditions and high temperatures, they attributed them, 1, to natural factors, and 2, to human factors. The natural factors are scientific in nature. What I picked from them, number 1, was the influence of tropical cyclone in the Indian Ocean. That was the scientific explanation why the country was very, very hot in the 3 months of December, January, and February. Point number 2 was the position of the sun. And scientifically, they explained that during February specifically, the sun moves closer to the equator. And as we are all aware, equator directly crosses our country. That is why it was exceedingly hot. The other scientific explanation, Mr. Speaker, was what they termed as urban heat island effect, where they explained that cities and large towns experience high temperatures.
Government Chief Whip. You see,
right, Honorable Speaker.
I'm sorry for interrupting, sir. Okay?
Yes.
Our issue is not the causes and what. Okay? Our issue is the mitigation mechanisms. Because all this you have repeated here on the floor several times. Our challenge is when all these the scientists knew were coming, what did they do to mitigate their effects on the population? That's if you could just help us on that. Because I remember the Minister for Environment sometime back and also Minister for Disaster had brought all these issues here.
I'm right, Honorable Speaker. When we keep dashing to mitigation without tackling what are the root causes, we may be treating symptoms and not, in my humble opinion.
No, I said they had already been brought here. Okay? The Minister for Water, for Environment.
Okay, with your permission, yeah. Let me alert the country that still the month of March, April, and May will be characterized, according to our scientists, by isolated thunderstorms, strong winds, lightning, hailstorms, heavy rains. This fact must be stated, Right Honorable Speaker. On the question of mitigation, because some of them are natural in nature, on the question such that we prepare, we need to prepare ourselves that from what we're experiencing, we may even go to the worst. Right Honorable Speaker, as I speak, the ministry in charge of KCCA, Office of the Prime Minister, and the agencies that do help us when such disasters occur are meeting in order for them to come up with the way forward on what the country is experiencing. But I want to state that majorly it is attributed to natural disaster, partly also occasioned by our human indiscipline. That is why we will continue experiencing this. If it pleases you, you may guide for either Ministry of Disaster or KCCA to come and brief the House on what they have now agreed on as the way forward. But as I speak, all of them are under the interministerial coordination to ensure that something is done, especially to families affected by the heavy rains. But suffice to say, We also need to be champions of environmental protection as citizens of Uganda. That is where we have fallen short. We need to be champions of environmental protection. We have left undone what ought to be done, and we are doing what we needed not to have done. And the Bible says there is no truth in us. We also need as a people, to also pray. Right, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Honorable Government Chief Whip, the issue of the Supreme Court ruling and implementation was raised by law.
Right, Honorable Speaker, may I request through you that the line Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs be accorded space on the order paper when the House resumes to give a brief on that subject matter. We may not be privy to the details of the processes from the time the Supreme Court came up with that ruling. Thank you.
Yes, procedure.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you said the plenary will be on recess. Our army is executing 2 wars in DRC and in South Sudan. And the reports keep coming through the media, including the most unfortunate one that we lost a colonel who was part of the fighting in DRC. But there are also reports in the international media accusing Uganda of using chemicals in South Sudan. You may have seen the video circulating. The procedural issue I am raising, Mr. Speaker, is when will you facilitate government to brief Parliament and the country on these wars? Because we cannot, as representative of people, continue consuming information from media, from social media, when our country and our army is executing wars at 2 fronts, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable, the plenary recess will be a short one. It will be a very, very short one. So we'll give government time to prepare during that time. Once we resume, they update the House. It will be a short one. Now, honorable colleagues, next item.
Item 3 on the order paper, bills first reading, 3.1, the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2025.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Supplementary Appropriations Bill 2025 be read for the first time.
No, the bill is not first reading. You don't need yeah. Clerk.
The Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2025.
Thank you. The bill stands referred to the Committee on Budget, and given the strict timelines that we have, I want the committee to report back by 1st of May, because I need them to go and concentrate on the budget.
Item 3.2, the Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2025.
Honourable Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2025 be read for the first time. I beg.
The Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2025.
Now, Honourable Minister, I think if you could start with the certificate, if it's for all bills, I don't know if each bill is having its own certificate or you've done a general certificate.
Mr. Speaker, these bills are accompanying the budget, and we have the overall certificate of financial implications on the budget.
Okay. Yeah, but colleagues, you know, the tax bills are special. Okay, yes, the tax bills are different from the other bills which we usually have. So we will look at the certificate for all. Once we find any gap, the minister is here. We'll be calling on him. The bill stands referred to the Committee on Finance, and the deadlines that we give, we have to ensure these bills are processed and finished before we could handle the budget. And honorable colleagues, this is mainly, and I want us, when the Committee of Budget is handling the budget, we must look at the cost of every clause. How much money was it supposed to raise, or what is the implication on the budget? So that if we have clauses we drop, tax measures, proposed tax measures we drop, then we should go back to the budget and reconcile. Otherwise, we would be supplying air. You deny it, you stop a tax measure, then you continue giving the whole budget the way it is. So we have to be very cautious when we are processing. Thank you.
Item 3.3.
Honorable Kanya.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the budget process is participatory, and we handle the budget based on Vision 2030, the National Development Plan, and the 10-year Fold Growth Strategy. We also handle our budget guided by the medium-term expenditure framework, which is for 3 years. Right Honorable Speaker, we are having a challenge at committee. The Minister of Finance has guided the accounting officers not to raise any issue which is not funded, and yet these are issues which are in the National Development Plan, the medium-term expenditure framework, but the resource envelope is limited. Right Honorable Speaker, a budget is a participatory process. It is just important that the country know through their members of parliament that there were items, schools to be built in this financial year, roads to be done, but the resource is not adequate. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm seeking your guidance to the Minister of Finance and to all committees to enable us to bring a report to this House with these items where government or the country has not been able to raise resource, but it was in the plan for 2025, 2026. Thank you.
Now, honorable colleagues, during the budget framework paper, okay, when we were processing the BFP, these issues were brought. Those ones which they had proposed fund and those they didn't fund. I'm sure also in the ministerial policy statements, they are captured in. So if we already have these documents where they are captured in, because I expect the Minister of Finance, for example, on the BFP to show us that we funded out of your recommendations, we funded A, B, C, D, and we were not able to fund A, B, C, D because of reasons A, B, C. Okay, that's how you work together. That's how participatory budgeting and comradeship works within this House. So I hope it's not a big problem. Honourable Minister, is it a problem for us to know what you've not been able to fund, but was a priority?
Mr. Speaker, you are correct, and also Honourable Ekanya is correct. A budget is a participatory process, and that is why at every stage, all stakeholders are involved and consulted. Mr. Speaker, in the ministerial policy statements, we are even reporting on the actions we have made on the budget framework paper recommendations. I think it is fair enough. And we are also open. We are saying in case of anything, we are willing to move with Parliament in the process.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Thank you. So, colleagues, there is a bill. You say I was interrupted before I could refer the bill, okay? Yeah, and I think that was on the value-added tax amendment bill. So it stands referred to the Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development.
Item 3.
Can we let's first receive...
Mr. Speaker, if you allow,
yes, Honourable.
I sit on the Committee on Finance. The Minister not tabling a certificate per bill is a departure. The Honourable Musasi knows that last year he tabled a certificate per bill showing how much money that tax measure is going to raise, and as the rules and law require, the impact of that particular tax measure to the economy. Mr. Speaker, I will take your guidance if we have now departed from that practice, because that's what he did.
Honourable Minister, you submitted the certificates to us, so but you wanted to do it at once, so maybe you can table for each, okay? But otherwise, the certificates, I have them here. I have the certificates here. I have the one for income tax amendment. I have the one for external trade amendment bill. So, Honourable Minister, we can share. Yeah. Instead of, yes, that's how I had wanted us to do it, okay? But since members are insisting, I don't want us to look like you don't have the certificates, yet you have them. So, colleagues, let's submit all certificates at once. I'll give him an opportunity because there are many. He reads each certificate, okay? And we do it that way. Yeah. Thank you.
Item
Let's
3.3.
do it at once.
Item 3.3, the Excise Duty Amendment Number 2 Bill 2025.
Honourable Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that the Excise Duty Amendment Bill Number 2 of 2025 be read for the first time.
The Excise Duty Amendment Number 2 Bill 2025.
The bill stands referred to the Committee on Finance Planning and Economic Development.
Item 3.4, the Tax Procedures Code Amendment Bill 2025.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move a motion that the Tax Procedures Code Amendment Bill 2025 be read for the first time.
The Tax Procedures Code Amendment Bill 2025.
The bill stands referred to the Committee on Finance Planning and Economic Development for processing and reporting back.
Item 3.5, the Income Tax Amendment Number 2 Bill 2025.
Honourable Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that the Income Tax Amendment Bill Number 2 of 2025 be read for the first time.
The Income Tax Amendment Number 2 Bill 2025.
The bill stands referred to the Committee on Finance Planning and Economic Development for processing and reporting back.
Item 3.6, the External Trade Amendment Bill 2025.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move a motion that the External Trade Amendment Bill 2025 be read for the first time.
The External Trade Amendment Bill 2025.
The bill stands referred to the Committee on Finance Planning and Economic Development.
Item 3.7, the Stamp Duty Amendment Bill 2025.
Honourable Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that the Stamp Duty Amendment Bill 2025 be read for the first time.
The Stamp Duty Amendment Bill 2025.
The bill stands referred to the Committee on Finance Planning and Economic Development for processing.
Item 3.8, the Hides and Skins Export Duty Amendment Bill 2025.
Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move a motion that the Hides and Skins Export Duty Amendment Bill 2025 be read for the first time.
The Hides and Skins Export Duty Amendment Bill 2025.
The bill stands referred to the Committee on Finance Planning and Economic Development.
The Appropriation Bill 2025.
Honourable Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, I beg to move a motion that the Appropriations Bill 2025 be read for the first time.
The Appropriation Bill 2025.
Thank you. The bill stands referred to the Committee on Budget, and I hope you're mindful of the timelines, so please ensure that you handle it expeditiously.
Item 4 on the order paper.
Before that, the Minister needs, you wanted, I think for the certificates you can do now for the bills.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to lay the following certificates of financial implications accompanying the tax bills for financial year 2025, and the certificates are the following. 1. Certificate of financial implications on the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2025. I beg to lay. 2. Certificate of financial implications on the External Trade Amendment Bill 2025. I beg to lay. 3. Certificate of financial implications on the Excise Duty Amendment Bill number 2 of 2025. I beg to lay. 4. Certificate of financial implications on the Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2025. I beg to lay. 5. Certificate of financial implications on the Hides and Skins Export Duty Amendment Bill 2025. I beg to lay. 6. Certificate of financial implications on the Stamp Duty Amendment Bill 2025. I beg to lay. 7. Certificate of financial implications on the Tax Procedures Code Amendment Bill 2025. I beg to lay.
Item 4 on the order paper, laying of papers. 4.1, the special audit report for the end of lease and assignment agreement between Umeme Limited and Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited.
Thank you. Honorable members, you recall that on 20th of March 2025, this House passed a resolution authorizing government to borrow euro equivalent of US dollars 190,988,556 from Stanbic for the Umeme Limited buyout. This amount was conditioned to the confirmation of the actual monetary amount of Umeme's investment by the Auditor General. This morning, the Auditor General submitted the special audit report for the end of lease and assignment agreement between Umeme Limited and Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited. Was submitted today morning. And the Auditor General has verified and confirmed the buyout amount of United States dollars 118,385,603 against the amount we approved of 190,988,556, which we had conditioned to this special audit. I will now invite the Parliamentary Commissioner to table the report. Then I'll guide further.
Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay on table the special audit report for the end of lease and assignment agreement between Umeme Limited and Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited. I lay, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Minister of Finance. Honorable colleagues, since we conditioned the approved amount to this audit, and the Auditor General has given a varying amount by a big margin, we need government to put into consideration this audit when they are finalizing with Umeme. Therefore, this can only be done if this report is adopted by the House, so that it's a document of the House, since the Auditor General is part of the House. So I now want to put the question that the House adopts the recommendation. Please. Please, a Minister of Finance is a member of Parliamentary Commission. Okay? Please. Okay? Please, Honorable Semja, I have not allowed you. Yeah, please. This is a report of the Auditor General, who is part of the House. Okay? I don't want to subject it to debate. We just want this report to go to government so that now for us we have finished our part, because the approval of the round was conditioned to this special audit. So I don't know what's... I don't know. Procedure?
Mr. Speaker, I have been here now a number of years. We have never passed a report of the Auditor General we have not read. This, Mr. Speaker, is going to be the first in modern history of Parliament that a report can be read there and MPs pass it without even seeing it. So the procedural issue I am raising, Mr. Speaker, because the rules governing committees, we have accountability committees that deal with these reports and then report, and we adopt as advised. So, Mr. Speaker, the procedural issue is whether now you have waived those particular rules, and now reports can be brought here and we pass them without even knowing and looking at them, Mr. Speaker.
Lop.
Honorable Speaker, I am a little flummoxed because we were here as Parliament and we appropriated $190.9 million. We protested that, firstly, because there was no Auditor General's report. It carried the day. We are now being told that there is an Auditor General's report mentioning $118 million. Honorable Speaker, you're saying we should adopt the Auditor General's report and hand it over to government. I don't know how that gets to apply, because are we then handing over the appropriation role to government? I thought it is this House, Honorable Speaker, that appropriates. We appropriated $190.9 million in error. In error because there was no Auditor General's report. Now we have the Auditor General's report. Perhaps we should be rescinding the other and then appropriating a new figure, as opposed to just passing the Auditor General's report and then we say, government, we are trusting you, perhaps to bring back the balance, to take it back to where. I don't know how that gets to apply. But also, Right Honourable Speaker, I think it would be prudent that the Auditor General's report is, number one, verified, studied. The Auditor General is part of Parliament. And on an annual basis, the Auditor General gives us report as Parliament. We send them to accountability committees, they are scrutinized, and all of that, because the Auditor General's report needs to be studied. They do work for us as Parliament. So before we pass it, it would be good that we know, as colleagues are saying, what is in that report can we ascertain. So that we don't have too many run-ins, because now there's 190, now 118, we might discover it should even be less, Right Honourable.
Thank you. Now, Honourable colleagues, to begin with, these are not annual reports, which must go to the committee. These are special audit reports. Annual reports are the ones provided for under our rules of procedure that they need to go to committee. That's number one. Number two, this is a time-bound report, which you yourselves, when you were passing the resolution, I think was it 2 weeks ago? Yes, on 20th of March, okay? You conditioned it to this report. Not you processing and going through this, but conditioned it to this report. And mind you, we must sort with Umeme by 31st of March. Okay? By 31st of March, which is Monday? Is it Monday? Is it Monday? Yeah. So now what it means, if by then we have not yet pronounced ourselves on this report of the Auditor General, government will continue with what we passed. Because they don't know about it. They don't know about it. They don't have it. Okay? The government has a figure. Government has a figure presented to us. We passed. And now the Auditor General has said, no, the amount was higher. We have verified it should be reduced by this amount. And this is an office of government. So the timeline is honorable colleagues. Otherwise, what do I lose by referring it to the committee? I would love that. But now, if we are to beat the deadline of 31st of March, which is next Monday, that is in the contract, whereby if we don't settle by that timeline, Umeme will get a blank check to start tripling and doing what in terms of interest and penalties. So you don't have much. Honorable Kanya?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I was a chairperson of PAC, and we attended and we have a position as accountability committees in Africa. Government, Tanzania, Kenya, South Africa, are not stopped from implementing the report of Auditor General. In fact, in Tanzania, the government, once the report comes out, they implement and then report to Parliament as Parliament discusses. So it is the wish of government and also the role of Parliament, the way we decide we want to move. Special audit report has issues of criminal nature. In some countries, the government does not need to wait. But also, this report, which is time-bound, what we are requesting, Right Honorable Speaker, that you invoke the necessary rules so that when the House takes position, the operation is within our rules. But also, government needs to look at the practice that has been adopted, that government does not need to wait for Parliament before you implement the report of Auditor General. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and I agree with you, especially on your audit reports. This is a special audit report that has been requested by Parliament, not provided that the Auditor General must have done this under the law or what, and we are time bound. So, Honorable colleague, the decision is ours, whether we want government in its final settlement with Umeme to consider this report or not. Colleagues, I now put the question that the House adopts the recommendation of the Auditor General as contained in the special audit report for the end of lease and assignment agreement between Umeme Limited and Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited. Those in favor say aye, and to the contrary nay. The ayes have it. Thank you. Clerk, please extract this resolution and ensure it reaches government today. It reaches the government today so that it is considered in their final discussion with Umeme.
Item 4.2, the annual budget estimates for the financial year 2025-2026, pursuant to Article 155 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, and Section 13.3, 9, 10, and 11 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015, and Rule 148 of the Rules of Procedure.
Honourable Minister.
Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, pursuant to Article 155 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, Section 12.3 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015, and Rule 148 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament, I beg to lay the annual budget estimates for financial year 2025-2026. They are in 3 volumes. Volume 1 covers central government votes. I beg to lay. Volume 2 covers, Volume 1 covers, it's part 1, it covers votes 001 to vote 1700, and volume part 2 covers vote 1701 to vote 3426. These are both central government votes. Volume 2 covers all local government votes. I beg to lay. Right Honorable Speaker, I also wish to lay Volume 3, which covers the state-owned enterprises and public corporations. I beg to lay. Mr. Speaker, the annual budget is accompanied by the following other documents. One is the Appropriations Bill 2025, which I laid earlier. Two is Statement of Multi-Year Commitments of Government. Mr. Speaker, I wish to lay the following documents that accompany the budget. One is Certificate of Gender and Equity Compliance for the draft estimates of revenue and expenditure. I beg to lay. Two is statement attesting to the reliability and completeness of the budget estimates of revenue and expenditure for financial year 2025-2026. I wish to lay. Number three is the Certificate of Climate Change Responsiveness Budget Framework. Certificate of Climate Change Responsiveness to the Budget Framework paper. I wish to lay. I also wish to lay, Mr. Speaker, the Certificate of Compliance to the annual budget by National Planning Authority. I wish to lay. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to lay the Certificate of Financial Implications for the estimates of revenue and expenditure for financial year 2025-2026. I beg to lay. Right Honorable Speaker, I also beg to lay the list of accounting officers for financial year 2025-2026, covering all votes of government. I also beg to lay the Uganda's multi-year commitment statement for financial year 2025-2026 and performance of multi-year commitments for financial year 2023-2024 and 2024-2025. I beg to lay. Mr. Speaker, also, I wish to lay the budgets of the self-accounting institutions. And to begin with is the budget estimates for statutory vote 101, judiciary for financial year 2025-2026. I beg to lay. Mr. Speaker, I sent to you other budgets for other statutory votes. If I can have access to the documents I submitted. In the meantime, No, it's okay. The one who, I am sorry, somehow they were put together as one document. Mr. Speaker, I read judiciary. The next budget for statutory is the budget estimates for vote 102 Electoral Commission for financial year 2025-2026. Mr. Speaker, I also lay the budget estimates for vote 103 Inspectorate of Government for financial year 2025-2026. Next is the budget estimates for statutory vote 104 Parliamentary Commission for financial year 2025-2026. I beg to lay. Next is budget estimates for statutory vote 105 Uganda Law Reform Commission for financial year 2025-2026. I beg to lay. Next is budget estimates for statutory vote 106 Uganda Human Rights Commission for financial year 2025-2026. I beg to lay. Next is budget estimates for statutory vote 107 Uganda AIDS Commission for financial year 2025-2026. I beg to lay. Next is budget estimates for statutory vote 108 National Planning Authority for financial year 2025-2026. I beg to lay. Next is budget estimates for statutory vote 131 Office of the Auditor General for financial year 2025-2026. I beg to lay. Mr. Speaker, with all the votes mentioned, I beg to lay on table. Right Honorable Speaker, I also wish to lay the medium-term debt management strategy for financial year 2025-2026 to financial year 2028-2029. I beg to lay. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the Treasury Memoranda on the report of Parliament, on the report of the Auditor General for financial year ended 30th June 2023 for Central Government Votes, Volume 2. I beg to lay. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the Treasury Memoranda for report of on the report of Parliament, on the report of the Auditor General for financial year ended 30th June 2023, Volume 3, Missions Abroad. I beg to lay. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the Treasury Memoranda on the report of Parliament, on the report of the Auditor General for financial year ended 30th June 2023, Volume 4, Public Universities, Referral Hospitals, and Specialized Health Facilities. I beg to lay. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the Treasury Memoranda on the report of Parliament, on the report of the Auditor General for financial year ended 30th June 2023. This is repeated. This is Volume 4, Public Universities, Referral Hospitals, and Specialized Health Facilities. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay Treasury Memoranda on the report of Parliament, on the report of the Auditor General for the financial year ended 30th June 2023, Volume 5, Local Governments. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the report on public debt, grants, guarantees, and other financial liabilities for financial year 2024-2025. I beg to lay. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the Consolidated Board of Survey Disposal Report for the financial year ended 30th June 2024 local governments. I beg to lay. Right Honorable Speaker, accompanying the estimates is also the Petroleum Fund report, the semi-annual report of inflows, outflows, and assets of the fund for the period ended 31st December 2024. I beg to lay. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the tax expenditure report for the period July 2024 to March 2025 for financial year 2024-2025. I beg to lay. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the macroeconomic development and fiscal prospects for financial year 2024-2025 and financial year 2025-2026. I beg to lay. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay a consolidation for disposal for missions abroad for Uganda mission at the United Nations, New York. I beg to lay. Right Honorable Speaker, what does the financial year 2025-2026 or what have I laid? Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, the theme of this year's budget remains as last year, which is full monetization of Uganda's economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, digital transformation, and market access. Right Honorable Speaker, the total budget for financial year 2025-2026 amounts to Uganda shillings 71 trillion 956 billion 621 million 530.
Procedure.
Mr. Speaker, there was a time here in the past when this copy and paste government forgot to remove the word Guyana in their budget. The Honorable Musasizi, the statement he is reading has 2024-2025 budget. Is he proceeding well by regurgitating documents relating to the budget of this financial year, but claiming and misleading Parliament that he has brought 2025, 2026, and is displaying them, reading 2024?
Thank you. Honourable Minister just asked a question that what have I laid on table? What have you laid
Mr.
on?
Speaker, I am sorry for this typo. But when I was reading, I was careful. I corrected and read financial year 2025-2026. Mr. Speaker, the resource envelope for financial year 2025-2026 will be 71 trillion 956 billion 621 million 530,685 Uganda shillings. Right Honorable Speaker, the next year's budget is focused on growing the economy tenfold through the ATMs and enablers as follows. 1. Agro-industrialization. 2. Tourism development. 3. Mineral-based industrialization. And 4. Science, technology, innovations, including ICT and creative art industry. And the enablers are the following. 1. Maintaining peace, security, and rule of law. 2. Human capital development, including health, education, water, and social protection. Full monetization of economy as number 3 through PDM. 4. Infrastructure development. Here we are looking at roads, railway, and electricity. 4. Regional integration. 5. Irrigation through bulk water to stabilize agriculture. 7. Manufacturing with focus on industrial parks. 8. Eliminating corruption. And 9. Environmental and natural resources conservation and protection. And 10. Vertical and horizontal integration of our economy. Right Honorable Speaker, in this budget, we have attended to crucial issues that were raised by Cabinet, Parliament, and NRM Parliamentary Caucus and the Presidential Advisory Committee on Budget at the National Budget Framework Paper. We have also addressed other critical policy commitments, mainly in domestic areas, agriculture, health, education, including the AFCON 2027, Electoral Commission, and the General Elections Roadmap, wage shortfalls in the local governments, unfinished infrastructure projects due to counterpart funding, amidst the constrained fiscal space. Mr. Speaker, we shall continue to provide for other critical areas as we go through this process. Lastly, Right Honorable Speaker, before I come to the last, I beg to lay the semi-annual budget performance report for financial year 2024-2025, Volume 1 and Volume 2, which is covering votes 306 to 617. I beg to lay. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I want to commit on behalf of the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development that we shall provide total support to Parliament and the relevant committees during the process of consideration of this budget. I submit, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. It's in line with Section 13(2) of the PFMA and Rule 148 of our Rules of Procedure. I refer the draft budget estimates and the attendant documents that have accompanied it to the Committee on Budget and sectoral committees, so that each sectoral committee can pick out their area of relevancy, process and report back by 8th of April. 8th of April, we need these reports submitted to the to the clerk, so that we can be able to put them on the order paper, and we process them here, and they go to the budget committee. Honorable colleagues, on the issue of umeme, since we've gotten varying figures, the Minister of Energy will be required to come back here and report back on what they would have paid umeme, okay, on what they would have paid to umeme and how they agreed on that amount, since the Auditor General has guided. House adjourned to 9th of April, 2 p.m.